The ratings for this season of Power Rangers have been a topic of discussion and concern among many fans, a lot of which are worried that the show's in trouble or it's about to be canceled. And while it's true total broadcast viewers are dropping, it is also true that it is one of the top rated shows for the Saturday that it airs, that it's doing okay among children's programming, and that it is actually pulling in more total viewers than a lot of long running action franchises. So, how could all these things be true at one time? Well, basically, the broadcast ratings for children's shows are down overall as more people go to watch their shows online, and that isn't captured in broadcast ratings. And so the ratings for Power Rangers is reflective of that. And so when I saw the concerns about ratings, I did a lot of research, and what I found surprised me, and I'm going to share those findings with you in this video. But first, let me preface it by saying a couple different things. First of all, the show is not canceled. Super Ninja Steel is happening next year. We've known that for a very long time, and the next season after that is already in the planning stages. Secondly, I don't believe that broadcast viewership is necessarily the best way to gauge the health of the show. It does not take into account online viewership, and since the purpose of the show is to sell toys, I believe the toy sales may have a more important impact on the show than actual ratings. But the thing is that fans can't really see the numbers on online viewers or on the toy sales, and they can see total viewership as far as broadcast ratings go. So that's the thing that fans often infatuate on, and that's where the concerns are. So that is what we'll be discussing in this video. So I've seen several people compare this season's ratings to the ratings for Power Rangers Samurai. The problem with that is that the show is not competing against itself from 5 years ago. No TV show is doing that. You're competing with the shows that are on right now. Power Rangers Samurai pulled in more than 2 million broadcast viewers per episode, with 3 episodes spiking to more than 3 million viewers. And one of those, the highest of which, got close to 4 million broadcast viewers. To put that in context, the SpongeBob season that ended that year was pulling in more than 4 million broadcast viewers per episode. The SpongeBob season that began that year was pulling in well over 3 million viewers per episode. And the problem is that no children's television show is pulling in those types of ratings anymore. SpongeBob is pulling in less than 2 million broadcast viewers per episode on an average episode now. So what we need to see is what is possible right now, what is possible in the current television landscape on broadcast viewers. How big of an audience are we working with? So Nickelodeon is your top-rated children's network, so why don't we take a look at what their top shows are pulling in. So anytime I show you a chart that looks like this in this video, this is going to be from the show's Wikipedia page and their list of episodes, and that normally lists the ratings for that show. Here we're looking at Loud House, which has been a big hit for Nickelodeon, and as you can see, ratings have been around 2 million. The highest episode they had was 2.25 million. And here's the Thundermans, another show that's doing quite well. Again, you can see it's doing about 2 million in the ratings, and the highest it spiked to was 2.37 million. And here's Henry Danger, which is another top-rated show. As you can see, doing about 2 million. It's definitely spiked several times up to like 2.5 million. Its highest is actually a little over 3 million. So as you can see, the top-rated kid shows right now are pulling in somewhere around 2 million, give or take, on broadcast viewership. So nobody is pulling in the same ratings they had 5 years ago. So with all that in mind, let's take a look and see how Power Rangers Ninja Steel is actually doing in its ratings. So Power Rangers Ninja Steel is averaging 1.2 million broadcast viewers per episode. And you can do that with simple math. You just add the broadcast ratings for each episode and then divide that number by the total number of episodes to get your average ratings. Now, keep in mind that this is just the first 19 episodes of the season plus the Halloween special. At the moment, the finale has not aired for this season, nor has the Christmas special. So it's just those 20 episodes out of a 22 episode season. So this number basically just confirms what we already knew. We know Power Rangers is not a top rated show, but the question is, how is it doing against all the other shows out there? And to determine that, I recommend going to the show's Wikipedia page. Go to that list of episodes, and for all those ratings it's showing, there's actually a little annotation beside each of the ratings. You click on that, and it's going to take you to the bottom of the page with a link that is going to be the source of where that rating came from. It's going to take you to Showbuzz Daily, where you can see the ratings for all the shows that aired on Saturday. The total broadcast viewership is the number on the far right. And I want you to take note of how many shows are getting less total viewers than Power Rangers, and also how many are pulling in less than 1 million total viewers. That's going to be important later. And also note that the rankings on these charts are based on how well shows are doing getting the 18 to 49 demographic. That's the number on the far left of the chart, and that is a very important number for a lot of TV shows. Power Rangers is actually ranking rather well in the 18 to 49 demographic on Saturdays. Half the episodes are in the top 20 for 18 to 49 viewers that day. 4 of the episodes are in the top 10 for 18 to 49 viewers that day, and all but 1 episode is in the top 50. And we'll talk about why that 1 episode wasn't in the top 50 in a few minutes. But of course, 18 to 49 wouldn't be the target demographic for Power Rangers. That would be a much younger children's demographic, and unfortunately, I do not have those numbers. As far as total viewership goes, you'll see that it starts out at around 1.5 million per episode, then it's going to drop to about 1.2 million per episode, and then ultimately it's going to end at around 1.1 million per episode. Again, this is only counting broadcast viewership. This is not counting online viewership. This does not count when someone misses an episode and watches it online instead. This does not count people who just watch the show online instead of when it's broadcast. And as you might notice, I am skipping a few episodes. I'm holding those off to the end because they're episodes of particular concern, because they actually drop below 1 million in ratings. As far as I can tell, there's no significance to dropping below 1 million. As you can see on these charts, a lot of shows drop below 1 million. Some actually do entire seasons getting below 1 million broadcast viewers. So I don't think there's any particular danger or significance to that number. A couple of those episodes, there might be reasons why broadcast viewership was a little lower that day, and one of them I think is probably just a fluctuation in viewership. The first one is Rocking and Rolling, which was the mid-season premiere, and that happened the same day as the Charlottesville riots, so you're going to see a lot of news programs on there because people were watching those to see what was going on. The next one was Ace in the Race, and you're going to notice the chart looks a little different because Power Rangers didn't even make it in the top 50 that day, and there's a reason for that. Hurricane Irma hit, and again, very significant event. Let me show you the top 50 that day. As you can see, it's almost a solid block of nothing but weather and news coverage. Irma was that big. And as anyone probably experienced when they were young, when something major happens, a lot of times the parents will take over the television and they'll turn it to news, and the kids just won't be able to watch that show that they were hoping to see that day. And the last one is Adventures of Redbot, and I can't find anything particularly unusual about the chart here, so I'm assuming that this is just a pretty normal fluctuation in ratings. I couldn't find a lot of weekly charts, but I did find this one. This is off a site called nickandmore.com, and it is all the original children's programming for that week. And this is the week that episode 10, The Ranger Ribbon, aired. And as you can see, it's pretty high up there. This is the very top of the chart with Alvin and the Chipmunks. as the top rated show at 1.45 million, and Power Rangers That Week got 1.09 million. And this particular site ranks shows based on total broadcast viewership. There is another chart. Unfortunately, the links to these charts don't work anymore, and I don't have a screenshot of it, but it was for the mid-season premiere, and it was in the middle of the ratings for that particular week. There were a lot of shows above it, there were a lot of shows below it, and it got about middle ratings. That was the one that had the historically low, below 1 million rating. So it still did okay that week. So let's have some fun and see how Power Rangers ratings stack up to the ratings of some long-running cartoon action franchises. So you may have noticed Dragon Ball Kai and Dragon Ball Super on those charts that I was showing you. And you'll notice that the ratings are nowhere close to Power Rangers. Power Rangers continuously outperforms both shows, sometimes by a lot, and that is considering they are on Adult Swim, and Dragon Ball Super has a prime time showing. Also note that both these shows normally pull in less than 1 million broadcast viewers per episode. And it's also outperforming this season of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's doing slightly better than Teen Titans Go, which got 1.14 million broadcast viewers on average at this point in its season. And it's doing a lot better than Justice League Action, which is another one of those shows like Dragon Ball, which is continuously pulling in less than 1 million viewers per episode. It's also doing way better than Transformers, which is another series that's getting well below 1 million broadcast viewers per episode. It's also getting way more viewers than the current Star Wars and Marvel cartoons on Disney XD. But please note that Disney XD is not in as many households and thus cannot get anywhere near the ratings of Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. So as you can see, the show is doing okay as far as total viewership goes. There's probably no threat of cancellation based on that. And I don't blame anyone who thought there was a problem. That's perfectly understandable. There's just not a lot of reporting on this or anything to give you kind of context or direction when you're looking at these ratings. It's not a hit show or a top-rated show, but it's also not a failure or in threat of cancellation. So it's just not very sexy for a reporter to write about. So there's just not a lot of reporting on the ratings for Power Rangers or the show itself. So it's perfectly understandable. I had to do a lot of research, like way more research than I ever want to do in order to understand this. So I perfectly understand anyone who just looked at the ratings in isolation and started to kind of freak out. And I think most of this comes from a place of love. I think a lot of people looked at the ratings and were just concerned about a show that they cared about. And even people who didn't like this season or haven't liked the last umpteen seasons, I think looked at the ratings and felt validation in them. I think they felt like, oh, people are leaving the show in droves because they don't like it too. Probably not the case, but it is a perfectly understandable human reaction. I don't really have any problem if you're concerned about something or would like the ratings to be higher, or if you don't like the show and you have suggestions on how they could make it in a way that's more appealing to you. It's all good. And there were some people who do actually want the show to be canceled. They didn't like the season, or like I said, didn't like the last umpteen seasons and would like the show to end. And they're absolutely entitled to their opinion, even though I do not agree with it personally. And obviously that is not going to happen. So let me just say that normally I don't care about ratings and I don't check them. So my assumption had been that the show hadn't been competitive in ratings for about 15 years or so. So I was really pleasantly surprised to see that it was doing better than all these other action franchises that I hear much more about. If I go on my social media, I'm going to see stuff about Dragon Ball. I'm going to see stuff about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm going to see that episode of Justice League Action where Mark Hamill voiced every single role in the episode. And the reason for that is that my peers watch those shows. And even though they may get less broadcast viewers than Power Rangers, the audience for those shows is on social media and they're making memes, they're talking about it. The main audience for Power Rangers is young children who are too young to be on social media and too young to make memes, so they're going to talk about it a lot less in that way. So I actually want to thank all the people who were talking about the ratings, because this research has given me a chance to see how the show is actually doing as opposed to how I think it's doing. And like I said, it's very pleasantly surprised me. I love all those action franchises I listed at the end, but it still does my heart some good to see Power Rangers getting more viewership than all of them. And before anyone comments that television is dying because all these shows are pulling in less broadcast viewers, let me point out that the United States television industry is an $84 billion industry that pulled in $31 billion in revenue last year. As long as you are watching the show, it does not matter if it's online or as it airs, as long as you're paying for a subscription or watching advertising or both, they're making money. So television is not going anywhere anytime soon. And I want to end by once again pointing out that I don't believe that total broadcast viewership is the most accurate way to gauge the health of the show. It does not take into account how well it's doing with its target demographic or how well it's doing with online viewership. And it's also not taking into account how well it's doing in the toy sales, which is, of course, the point of the show. Now, we do have some insight into toy sales. This summer, an article was making the rounds about how Power Rangers is the #1 action figure brand, and just anecdotally looking at the shelf and looking at how well it's been moving product compared to other brands that I follow, I'd say that's probably accurate. I'd say the toys are probably doing all right for themselves, but that's actually going to be the topic of my next video. We're going to talk about toys this season. We're going to talk about how well they're doing, and we're going to talk about female figures. That age-old argument, should they make them? Do they sell? Is it bad if they don't sell? All that good stuff. So there's going to be less numbers, less charts, more toys. It's going to be a fun episode, guys. So until then, show's over. Ninjas win.